The biggest issue in change management and the reason that we have to mitigate risk when we're actually implementing change is because change management itself is actually the biggest risk for psychological injury. The mitigation of that risk involves a number of different things, but the biggest part of it is because what we're dealing with are our human resources, and we often talk about the fact that human beings don't like change. It's not true that human beings don't like change. It's the fact that human beings don't usually like change for change's sake. They need to understand why the change is necessary. They need to recognise strategically why that change is important. And then they need to have that information distilled down to them so that they can actually buy into why the change is necessary. The mitigation of the risk has to have a number of different factors in it. The first is the communication. So part of this is about you as a leader have determined that the organisation needs to have this particular change because you've got a business issue that needs to be resolved. That's why the change is necessary. We need to communicate that all the way down to, the people who are actually delivering at the front end of your business. Depending on the size of your business, that's going to be easier or not so if you're in a large organisation. The larger the organisation, the more layers that we have to kind of work with in order to explain and implement the change and why the change is necessary. And we have to do that in a number of different ways. One's documentation, two's giving people an input into what they feel about the change. Now, whether you do that through formal workshops, if I'm working with a large organisation and we're trying to mitigate that risk, what we will generally do is make sure that it's very clear about what strategically this change is going to, bring to the organisation. And then we need to actually make sure there's a consistent level of training and information passed on to varying levels of management within the organisation. Rather than just leaving it to that single line, we also have to make what I call broadcast messages that go across the whole organisation so that we know that we're not relying on the message being delivered by only one channel. Because when we do that one channel stuff, we're relying on the communication effectiveness of that one manager as opposed to there being this consistent message broadcast across the whole organisation. So that's the other reason why when I'm working with an organisation, I will deliver that training at those varying levels so there's a consistency, and we also put in place some feedback mechanisms because that's the only way that we know that we are effectively mitigating that risk around the change.